Welcome to Azure Virtual Desktop with Terraform, Infrastructure as a Code for a Secure Experience. This presentation appeared because I had this question. If there is a way to implement a secure and replicable infrastructure that meet specific standards, and this presentation, I hope, answered that question. First, a lot of things are coming again, like a cloud, shoes, glasses, the vintage experience. The terminal also came back again. Those that have a little bit more experience know what I'm talking about, the terminal server. First, I would like to talk about me. I am Carlos Solís Salazar. I am one of the leaders in Comunidad Toyo in Panama. We help people, we transform life through cybersecurity, teach them and help them to find even a new career path. Also have a lot of certification related to Azure and Microsoft 365. I am Microsoft certified trainer and also Terraform certified associated. I have some recognition in some Microsoft internal communities. Also, I am a Microsoft MVP in Azure area. I currently work in OS Digital Consulting as a senior cloud architect or senior cloud solution architect. And a fun fact about me, I know 7 ways to prepare black coffee. So if you like coffee, you can ping me and I help you with that. Also, don't look for me as a Carlos Solis because will be the result. That is a fictional character, so please don't use Carlos Solís Salazar to try to find me on internet. We'll be talking about what is Azure Virtual Desktop, of course, and we'll be talking about the infrastructure and architecture around Azure Virtual Desktop. What is and how we will secure Azure Virtual Desktop? What is Terraform? What is infrastructure as a code with Terraform? We will talking about Terraform Lifecycle, and we will talk about how Terraform works. And at the end, we will explore the code for this demonstration. First, I would like to show you that we don't have create any Azure Virtual Desktop. In fact, if you see here, this is my Terraform code. So I would like to show you my environment. I don't have create any new resource group. So first we need to create our environment or init our environment. I will explain any of these commands in a couple of minutes during the presentation. So first we init the environment and then we will apply our configuration. Then we'll start reading our our configuration file, and it's asking me to create a lot of resources. Let's say yes, then we will explain about any of these environments. Let's go back to the presentation, and in a few minutes we will come back to our environment. So first, what is Azure Desktop? And Azure Virtual Desktop is a PDI infrastructure, desktop infrastructure to virtualize service and workstation. When to use it? For example, when you have some geographical limitation, you can force your user use that environment in a secure way. Also, when you have IoT environments and you need to access to that environment with a terminal, you can use this environment or use ABD to access to that environment in a secure way. Also, when you have a lot of people working around the world and need access to a secure environment, this is a good option. So Azure Virtual Desktop, one part and one big part is administrated by Microsoft. We don't administrate the gateway, the web access, the connection broker, some diagnostics tools, even the license related to that environment. All those resources will be administered by Microsoft. What are we going to administrate? The session host, for example, the regular Windows or Linux Windows environment, And also the image of those custom OS could be possible, the applications related to that session host, and also the users through our domain controller or Enter ID. One good aspect related to Azure Virtual Desktop is that you can use it in your browsers. In fact, you can use it in any environment or any device that support HTML5. So you can connect to your environment through the browser, or even if in Windows or Mac, you can use the application. So to understand a little bit how Azure Virtual Desktop network connectivity works, let's say our user is in a laptop, table, tablet, or even a phone. He first authenticate in our Enter ID. During that authentication, they will use the web access, the portal, and if we have the authorization, also we are connected to the gateway, and it's the Enter ID that will allow us connect to our session host, our desktop application, and all that is through HTTPS. We don't have to create this firewall or this other firewall. Those resources are administered by Microsoft. So we don't have to open the port TT89. We just use our browser, authenticate with our Enter ID credentials, and then we can enter in the environment. A good security layer related to Azure Virtual Desktop is we will use our Enter ID authentication. So using Enter ID authentication, we can use our process of multi-factor authentication. We start evaluating the user, the location of the user, the device, is a phone, a computer, is a computer, a trusted computer, is a new computer, which application the user is connecting, and the real-time risks. Those are some evaluation related different variables. All those values can allow us connect, or we ask you for, we will require multi-factor authentication to enter, or even block. And when we pass this, we can access to our environment. So we have the first layer is related to the authentication. If the user cannot authenticate it in Azure Virtual Desktop, cannot access to the environment. Then we can, in all session hosts, we can use Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, so we can have our malware protection layer covered with this solution. And also we can monitor all the behavior of the OS in our environment. And to administrate all those machines in Azure Virtual Desktop, we can use, for example, the Active Directory domain service to apply some GPOs in the OS, but also we can implement Microsoft Intune, that is a service, a SaaS service of administration of a mobile device. So we can apply controls to our host from Microsoft Intune and the Microsoft infrastructure. Another good thing related to Azure Virtual Desktop is we can apply a disaster recovery infrastructure really cheap and really fast in our environment. When we have a disaster, let's say in a point we have a disaster in the region, can be in the region, the Microsoft region, in the Azure region, and we can replicate, or we have activated a replication of our OS on session host. For the user will be really transparent, connect to another region. Maybe they will have some latency, but can access to the environment. And they not necessarily lost a lot of information. Maybe it's a little bit information. In Azure Virtual Desktop, you have a lot of way to set and save the data of the user in real time. Let's talk about Terraform. First, let's talk about infrastructure as a code. It's a practice of managing and provisioning compute infrastructure like servers, networking, database, and even a lot of more resources through machine readable file. We can control our resources and change all the resources. But what is a infrastructure as a code with Terraform is from HashiCorp company. It's an infrastructure as a code tool. Will let you define and and the infrastructure in a human readable declarative configuration file. We will see the file, don't worry, and manage the infrastructure lifecycle. Using Terraform, you have several advantages, and I would like to talk why I started using Terraform. In my case, I was working with some developers. We implement Azure DevOps in the deployment of the code, but usually we have some issues, some communication issues related and the deployment of the infrastructure in production, in QA, and in development environment. So I started learning Terraform to deploy the environment. This allows us manage the infrastructure and have control of the infrastructure. So in a point, I when I had conversation with them and they told me the developer, I don't have access. The for QA is not the same from production. I start from the beginning telling that it's not possible. It is the same code. So when it's the same code, you there is no a way that the configuration is not the same in any environment. So we first can manage any infrastructure. We can manage a lot of infrastructure related to, for example, Azure, AWS, Google Cloud, even VMware environment. We can manage that infrastructure. We can standardize deployment, the deployment workflow. When we have this big workflow that we need, we won't have any issue, any problem, because the code that we already test in one moment, we can know that that code will be deployed in any environment or each environment. You can track the infrastructure. This is one thing that I really like it because in the projects, usually somebody edit or modify the infrastructure directly in Azure, for example, directly edit and modify the environment. So with Terraform, I can know where they change and what is the value that they change. For example, in my case, when I had the issues with the developers, they make a change in the developer environment. I can see it and apply that modification in QA and production to allow the functioning of the application, the correct functioning of the application. When you have GitHub, you can use the environment. For example, that is an example in a current project that I have. We have some architect working, developing the Terraform code. Everyone is working in a piece of the environment, and we are updating the same repository. And we have one code for all the components that we need in infrastructure. And I just need to use Git and make a Git pull, Git push, and merge branch. But I can work on a lot of team can work in the same code with the correct planification and coordination. What is the life cycle of Terraform? I started the presentation doing some comments. Let's explain those comments. First is the Terraform init. Terraform init will read your main file, will read which modules, which providers are you using. For example, in my case, I am using a module that I developed and using the provider. Using those values in the environment, Terraform will download all the information that they need to run locally. There is a command, we didn't run it, but we can run a Terraform plan. Terraform plan will help us to identify what is the modification, what are the code that we are implementing, and if the change that we want to apply is the correct one. Just will show us what is the plan that we have. The code that we just run is the Terraform apply. Terraform apply, we read our configuration, and then when they read the configuration, they will execute and create the resources that they have. They first run the Terraform apply, will run a Terraform plan, and when they run that Terraform plan, will ask a question, I have to answer yes, and that is the only possible answer. If you respond anything else, it will be canceled the application. So after we answer yes, they started creating the environment. And at the end, the final of the life cycle is Terraform destroy. I can destroy a complete and complex environment within minutes. Just applying this command, they also will read all the information and tell me if I have agree of the destruction of the environment. So we have to be really sure about it. But we just need to run this command. I can run all this in less than an hour. I can create a complex environment, make my test, do all the tests that I need to do, the demo that I need to do, and then I destroy the environment. That is a cheaper way to have a complex environment, make my test anytime that I want. How Terraform works? I have a file. In Windows, it's terraform.exe file. In Linux, we just install apt, install Terraform. We will install the executable of that command. So that's executable. When we run these commands that I showed previously, they read the files that I create. They read the file, they create and update constantly a file called terraform.tstate. This shows the state of the environment in a file. And we will connect to a multiple providers, like I said, AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, even DigitalOcean. So if I make a change in the environment and run the Terraform code, they will evaluate what I have in Terraform state, what I have in the environment, and what I have in the file. And if something has changed in the environment, they show me in the code and in the prompt, I will see what is the difference related to my file, my Terraform state file, and the environment. So with that, I can know somebody modified something that I didn't provide, I didn't authorize, or that wasn't the plan, or if the plan, I can update my Terraform code and run again the command, and we say that everything is okay. So enough talking. Let's show you a little bit about the environment and the code that we deploy. So as you can see, we run our command. A lot of resources were created, 25 blocks, but no, it wasn't the resources. So a lot of things was creating. I will explain you the code. But let's see how that is in the end user point of view. We need to update. This usually take a couple of minutes or seconds to update. So I have my session host and my connection to a computer in the environment. Let's say I allow, these are RDP configuration. So I can by default, for example, block, copy and paste, use the clipboard. So I cannot use the clipboard on the environment or my personal clipboard in the. And while this is happening, and because it's the first start, take a couple of seconds, let's see the first part of the code. The first part of the code, I define where I will storage my Terraform state file. I store it locally, and we have it here. This is our file. Our Terraform state file is here, as you can see, and we know all and if we see the file will tell us what they create and what we have in the environment. So in our main file, we have first, I have a comment to remember how to connect to the Terraform file. I create a module, and this module, using my source code, my provider that I create, what is the version, I define the users that will use the Terraform, the virtual desktop environment. I define some variables to make it more related to the event. I define how many computers I want to create. I create 2 computers in this Terraform environment. and what is the tenant ID and what is the subscription ID that I'm using, because my user have a lot of subscription and tenant. I hope I use a lot of them. I need to create a registration token. I need to create this value, and one requirement shouldn't be more than 1 month and less than a day is the period of time that I can create the registration token. And those variables, I define the variables, my tenant ID and my subscription ID. This is all that I need locally, and when I run Terraform init, Terraform will read this and will download all the information that I need to create my environment. So I have here, this is the module that I use to run the creation of the Terraform. I will show you the configuration of the file. Before that, I would like to show you our Windows environments already created. And in one of the hosts, let me show you in which host I am connected. So I am connected in the first host. What is that first host? Let's see it Terraform in the first graphically or in the dashboard portal. What I have. So I update my resource group. I have my new resource group created with the resources, and I have two computers. One is called Conf42 2024 2, and the other one is Conf42 2024 1. I create two virtual machines. I just need to change the number, update the number, reduce the number, the quantity of number, and they will automatically increase or decrease the resources. I need create a virtual network, a network security group. And as you can see, I don't have public IP in this environment, so I don't use any direct connection to the virtual machine. All the managed is through the Azure Virtual Desktop. I have the host pool. Here I manage all the resources. I can even define a scaling plan that is I decide shut down or turn off the computer. Here I have the different RDP configurations. I can define, for example, if I want use the microphone, the camera, and also the clipboard or the drivers or the printer. Or I can do it through different variables to create this result. And here I can see the state of my computers or my session host connecting to the Azure Virtual Desktop environment. And here I have a user connected. If I add two users in the test, I can see which users are connected in the environment. This is a validation the what is the state of that computer. Let's see the Terraform code. First, we create, as I said, first we have to create a resource group. So this is the value, or this is the block to create a resource group with Terraform. Then we will creating a network, and this is one from value. I by default define that when I create the virtual network, we have the suffix pnet. I define the prefix. This is my prefix defined here. But all the suffix always will be have always the network security group. The suffix will be NSG, and those are default values. So I always will have that convention name in my infrastructure. So we created the networking part, and then after that, we need to create the Azure Virtual Desktop environment. Creating the Azure Virtual Desktop environment, I create the workspace, the host pool. As you remember, we had this same configuration. These are the custom RDP properties. I define it here by default in the environment, and also define how we call the host pool. We always will have the name Terraform host pool, and then something here. Always I can customize the prefix, create the registration info that I need for the add the resources, and creating application group, and automatically I create everything related to the Azure Virtual Desktop. So after I create that, I will creating the session host. I take the registration token, but I create the network interface because I decide create two machines. They will use a loop here, so we're creating two network interface, and then we're creating two VMs, and also with their OS disk. And this is the fun part. First, I need to make that those computers authenticated with Entra ID authentication. So this is the configuration to achieve that. And why is that? Because Azure Virtual Desktop only will work if we have a Active Directory domain service authentication in the computer. So we have to join to the domain those computer, or if we are using Entra ID authentication. For my demo purpose, I don't create a Active Directory domain service, but I use the Entra ID authentication. So first, I force the compute that those session hosts, I force them to use Entra ID as an authentication, as a domain controller, quote unquote. And then I will register those computer, those virtual machine in the environment. As you can see, also always I have the count. So if I define two computers, they will creating this block two times, and they will using the computer because this is the structure of the ID of the computers. And with this script, I add the computer to the environment. Because the security is important, I extract the information of the user. I create a security group, and I add the minimum roles that those users need to use Azure Virtual Desktop. I don't give them any other roles. I don't have to be always asking which role need the user to connect. I know they need desktop user in the application group, and they will need virtual machine user login in the session host. Always I will be complying that. And if you remember, we already are in the environment, but I will show you what happened when we have an incident. Let's say for any reason the computer failed. I stop, let's say the computer failed. We come back to our environment and we will wait a few seconds, and we have an error. We disconnected to the computer. For some reason, we lose the connection to that host. I just refresh the screen and try to connect again. Let's see if we can. We already lost one host, but we have the second host running. We log in, and because this host is new, it will be making the login process again. But as you can see, I have access again to my virtual environment, even if I lose a computer for any reason. The computer failed, crash, any reason, I automatically have a secondary host where I can work and continue doing my process or my daily activities. If we come back here, we can see, let's enter in the computer. This is the virtual machine that we just shut down. As you can see, the computer is shut down. And if we go to the Azure Virtual Desktop environment and refresh the screen, we see that we have one host that had it. We don't know what it was, but we know that we have a host with a problem. But our user could connect to the new host without any problem. Let's prove that we have in the secondary host. As you can see, I am the host number 2. So what's relatively fast, transparent to the user, and we can continue doing our daily activities. Let me run again the VM. This will take a couple of minutes. Start the VM, and then in a few minutes we'll be seeing everything is running okay. As you can see, Azure Virtual Desktop can help us in our deployments, in our tests. I just show you a way to create Azure Virtual Desktop environment, can help the developers, can help the teams, but we can do it also for other resources, and using Terraform, we can deploy environments, complete environments with a code, and also we will have the security layer that we need in our environment. One final thought, there is a complete certification related to Azure Virtual Desktop. It's the Exam AC 140. It's all related to Azure Virtual Desktop. Also, there is the Terraform certification that you can execute it. And of course, use the Microsoft MVP forum Stack Overflow to ask questions if you have any issue. I asked a lot of questions to complete this code. I asked a lot of questions in those forums while ago. You can find me in LinkedIn. Soy Solís Carlos. Please, if you will look for me, my complete name, use Carlos Solís Salazar to finish or close our life cycle of Terraform. Let's see, for example, let's see again if we recover our host. I don't see it anymore as a failed host. I think, okay, here maybe I have to wait. As you can see, we already have the host. So let's now, the final step is Terraform destroy the environment. This will take, again, we'll read everything that we have in our Terraform state file, in our environment, and in our configuration, and we'll define what we have to do to destroy the environment. As you can see, we'll destroy everything that we created, computers, the different computers and network interface, and this, and the extension that we use to join the computer to enter ID. Will destroy practically everything we created, and we just have to approve the destruction, and that's it. That's it. The process will take a couple of minutes, but at the end, you can be sure that everything will be destroyed, and we just use a little bit our Azure Credit. I hope everything was nice, and if you have any question, please don't hesitate ask me in any social network.